Hi, it's Dave Parody of FinancialViz.com and ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. In this video, I want to show you a makeover that I used recently in a conference presentation in Philadelphia, similar to the type of table of numbers you're seeing on the screen right now. So this is a very typical type of slide that we see where people are showing historical performance on related measurements or metrics. So here we have sales, we have margin, and we have inventory turns. And while all of this information is entirely accurate, what I want to suggest is we can make this more visual. And the way we need to start is to think about what message are we trying to communicate. And I think there are actually three different types of messages. First type of message is for sales. Here we're comparing the values to each other. Clearly we want to show that the sales values in this case have been going up every year, which is a good message, a good story that we want to share. But that's not the same message as we want to show for the margin. For the margin is a trend. The margin is something that we want to look at over time and say, are we at least maintaining or even increasing our margin? That would be great, but at least maintaining our margin. Because sometimes when sales increases, expenses increase more than sales, and our margins actually decrease. So again, an important message to communicate, but it's not comparing the values. It's about showing the trend. And the final type of message we want to talk about are inventory turns being above our goal. Now, you might go, Dave, where's the goal on this slide? See, that's the challenge sometimes of the information in a table is that additional context, which is in actually the speaker notes of this slide, tells us that our goal is 7.5 inventory turns. So we are above that goal, which is, again, another good news story, but it's not shown here in the table. We just see the numbers and we don't know, is that good or not? So by comparing to a standard, we can show our performance. So we have three different messages that we need to communicate. And so what I would suggest is we communicate them visually. So for our first message, where we're comparing values to each other, I suggest use a column chart. A column chart is a good way to compare those values and show the values very clearly. Also notice for each of my visuals here, I'm going to add a title that gives the viewer the key message they need to understand. So here, sales has increased each year. That's great, good news story. Second, this is about margins. Margins are holding steady. Now they did have that one drop in 2018, but they have recovered and they've been holding pretty steady since then. This is again another good story. The trend is shown as a line graph. A line graph is a good way to show a trend, and you'll notice that I include on this graph the grid lines. Why? Because anytime you're looking at a trend, one of the things that viewers are going to want to know is the trend up? Is it down? Is it getting back to where it was if it did drop? And by having these known perfectly horizontal lines being the grid lines, it makes it easier for the viewer to interpret the visual. Then finally, we are meeting and exceeding our goal for inventory turns every year. And this is a dashed line on a column graph. The dashed line is part of the graph. It's not drawn on afterwards because you need to make sure this graph is always going to be accurate, even when the data gets updated, or for example, the goal might change based on circumstances. So by showing this information visually instead of that table, it makes it much easier for the viewer to understand the key messages and to act on it. So if you have tables of numbers that you want to turn into meaningful visuals based on the messages, then that's exactly what I teach in my customized Financial Viz training courses. We talk about what visuals to select, and also I show people how to create these in the tools they already have, Excel and PowerPoint. If that's of interest to you, just get in touch. We can talk about how I can customize the course to your particular needs and deliver it virtually so that we can include all of your staff no matter where they are geographically. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.